exciting is gathering the data, because we have so much human data, but we don't have a lot of wildlife data. It takes some iteration to get these models working right.
It started as a glitch, or at least that is what the researchers thought. The computer screen flashed a red alert on a frequency that had been silent for over a century. They checked the wind noise. They checked for farm dogs. They checked for technical errors.
Listen to thousands of hours of audio is not a good use of it, though. So much so that it's impractical to apply those methods to track animals. They just don't have the resources to do it, so they can't do it.
But the algorithm was insistent. It had found a match. In the dead of night, miles away from the nearest human settlement, a howl pierced the silence. The sensors detected a predator return that was supposed to be impossible. And the scary part is, we have no idea how many more are out there. The ghost frequency that shattered the silence. For a long time, we thought we had complete control over the wild. We drew lines on maps, built fences, and decided which animals were allowed to live near us and which ones had to go. In the 19th and 20th centuries, there was a massive campaign across North America and Europe to get rid of the big predators. We are talking about the gray wolf. The mission was simple: clear the land for farming and safety. And for the most part, it seemed to work. The howls that used to echo across the valleys faded away. The woods went quiet. For generations, people grew up in a world where the only thing you had to fear in the forest was getting lost or maybe tripping over a root. But here is the catch. Nature does not care about our maps. While we were busy congratulating ourselves on taming the wilderness, something was shifting in the shadows. We rely heavily on visual confirmation. If we don't see it, we assume it is not there. We send guys out in trucks or helicopters to count animals. We look for paw prints in the mud or scat on the trails. It is a very primitive way of doing things, considering the technology we have today. It is also incredibly inefficient. A wolf pack can travel 50 miles in a single day. They are ghosts. They know how to stay hidden. If they smell a human coming, they are gone long before you ever raise your binoculars. So for years, our data was flawed. We assumed certain areas were predator-free just because no one had snapped a photo. But biology is changing. We have entered the era of the silicon ear. This is where things get crazy. Scientists started deploying what are called passive acoustic monitoring systems. Think of these as military-grade listening devices, but for nature. They are small boxes, usually camouflaged, with a battery, a memory card, and a high-fidelity microphone. You strap one to a tree in the middle of nowhere, and you leave it there for months. It records everything: the wind, the rain, the creaking branches, and every single living thing that makes a sound. The crazy part is the sheer volume of data. One of these units can record thousands of hours of audio. No human being can sit there and listen to all of that. It would take a lifetime. For a long time, these recordings just sat on hard drives, gathering digital dust. But then, we taught computers how to listen. And that is when the surprises started. In places like the mountains of France or the dense forests of the American Midwest, these sensors started picking up something that shouldn't have been there. It was a low-frequency sound, rising and falling in a specific harmonic pattern. To the untrained ear, it might sound like the wind howling through a canyon. But when you run it through a spectrogram, a visual way of looking at sound, the signature is unmistakable. It wasn't the wind, and it wasn't a stray dog. It was the call of an apex predator claiming territory that we thought was empty. The drama here is that the machine knew before the people did. The AI flagged the return of the wolf weeks, sometimes months, before a human ever found a track. It was like a ghost frequency suddenly appearing on the radio. The implications of this are massive. If the AI is right, then our safety maps are wrong. The wilderness is not as empty as we thought. And if these predators can slip back into areas with millions of people nearby without us noticing, what else are we missing? The scary thing is not that they are back, it is how they got there without us knowing. We are talking about animals detecting a void in the ecosystem and filling it, moving like phantoms through civilized lands. And up until now, we were deaf to it. But the silicon ear never sleeps, and it is starting to tell us stories we might not be ready to hear. This leads us to a wild theory that some fringe biologists are starting to whisper about. What if these animals never actually left? We call it the silent pack theory. The standard story is that we hunted them to extinction, and now they are migrating back from other countries or states. But what if a small, hyper-intelligent population survived the whole time by learning a simple rule? Do not howl? Wolves howl to communicate, to rally the pack, and to mark territory. But if howling brings death, if every time you howl, a human comes with a weapon, in natural selection would favor the quiet ones. It is possible that for 50 or 60 years, we have had ghost wolves living right under our noses, surviving by staying completely silent. And now, either they are forgetting that fear, or our sensors are just getting sensitive enough to hear the softest whispers they make to each other. It sounds like a conspiracy, but think about it. We find new species in the ocean every day. Is it so hard to believe that the smartest predator in the northern hemisphere learned how to trick us? The AI might be uncovering a secret society of animals that has been hiding in plain sight for a century. Basically, the game has changed. We used to chase them. Now we just listen, and the silence is telling us that we are not alone. The silicon ear that never sleeps. It is not that simple, though. You might be thinking, okay, so a microphone heard a wolf. Big deal. But you have to understand the technology to understand why this is such a massive breakthrough and why it is terrifying for some people. Let's break down how this actually works, because it is straight out of a sci-fi movie. The device itself is pretty basic. It looks like a rugged plastic box, but the magic happens in the software. We are using machine learning, specifically something called convolutional neural networks. Don't worry about the fancy name. Just think of it as a brain that learns by watching, or in this case, listening. To train this AI, scientists feed it millions of clips of audio. They play it the sound of a coyote yipping. Then they play it the sound of a domestic dog barking. Then they play it the sound of a car engine, a chainsaw, a rushing river, and finally, the howl of a gray wolf. They tell the computer, this is a wolf, this is not a wolf. Over time, the computer gets really good at spotting the difference. It looks for patterns that human ears might miss. For example, a wolf howl is long, deep, and carries over huge distances, sometimes up to 6 or 10 miles depending on the terrain. A coyote is higher pitched, more chaotic, full of yips and barks. A dog usually barks in a repetitive rhythm. The AI analyzes the frequency, the pitch, and the duration. And get this, the newest versions of this software, like the famous BirdNet tool, which was originally designed for birds but is now being tweaked for mammals, can process this audio in near real time. So imagine you are a researcher. You come back from the field with 10 memory cards. In the old days, you would just listen to random spots and hope you got lucky. Now you dump all that data into the computer. The AI scans through terabytes of silence and noise in a few hours. Suddenly, it spits out a timestamp. November 14th, 3 in the morning. Probability of wolf, 99%. You click play, and there it is, the sound that sends shivers down your spine. But here is where the impossible part kicks in. The AI doesn't have biases. It doesn't know that wolves were supposed to be wiped out in that specific area 50 years ago. A human expert might hear a faint sound on a recording and say, nah, it can't be a wolf. There are no wolves in this state. They would dismiss it because their brain is trained to believe the official story. The AI doesn't care about the official story. It only cares about the data. If the sound matches the mathematical signature of a wolf, it flags it. This lack of bias is why the sensors are detecting predators returning to places that experts swore were safe. It is catching the impossible returns because it doesn't know they are impossible. However, the technology isn't perfect, and that adds to the drama. The wind is the biggest enemy. A gale blowing through pine needles can sound surprisingly like a distant chorus of animals. There is also the problem of mimicry. Some breeds of large dogs, like huskies or malamutes, can let out a howl that sounds very close to their wild cousins. If a farm dog gets loose and howls at the moon, the AI might panic and trigger a false alarm. This creates a high-stakes game of verification. The AI acts as the scout. It says, hey, look over here. Then the humans have to scramble. They have to rush to that location, set up camera traps, and look for physical proof. It is a race against time. Because if there really is a pack forming in a new area, The local farmers need to know yesterday, and that is putting it lightly. The moment that AI confirms a detection, the clock starts ticking. It goes from a scientific curiosity to a potential crisis for anyone raising livestock in the area. The silicon ear is stripping away the element of surprise that these predators rely on. But as we are finding out, even with all this high-tech gear, nature still has a few tricks up its sleeve. Here's another wild thought to consider. We know that animals can hear frequencies that we cannot. Whales communicate over hundreds of miles with infrasound. Elephants feel vibrations in the ground. What if the AI is picking up parts of the spectrum that we have been ignoring? Some researchers believe that wolves might utilize acoustic camouflaging. This is a theory that suggests they time their calls to match environmental noise. They might howl exactly when a gust of wind hits the valley or when a plane flies overhead. To a human ear, the sound is buried, but the AI can deconstruct the sound layers. It can peel back the wind noise and find the predator hiding inside the frequency. It raises a disturbing question. How much of the natural background noise of the forest is actually animal communication that we are too deaf to hear? Are the woods actually screaming with information that we are just now beginning to decode? The AI is like a translator for a language we didn't even know was being spoken. And the first message it has translated is a warning. The kings of the forest are back. Phantom packs in the forbidden zone. So here's the deal. This isn't just theory. This is happening on the ground right now in places that seem completely unbelievable. Let's look at France as the prime example of this mystery unfolding. France eliminated its wolves by the 1930s. Gone, done. The history books said the war against the beast was won, but nature hates a vacuum. In the 1990s, wolves from Italy started crossing the border. They moved through the Alps, silent and invisible. People denied it for years. They said it was just wild dogs or stray animals. But the population grew. Now, fast forward to the last few years. The expansion is pushing westward and northward into areas that are completely different from the high mountains. We are talking about the Vosges Mountains and even the lowlands. This is the forbidden zone, places where the human population is too dense, where there are too many roads, where it should be impossible for a large pack to hide. But the acoustic sensors tell a different story.